This could only happen to a guy like me, and only happen in a town like this. And so I say to each of you most gratefully, as I throw each one of you a kiss, this is my kind of town. Your city is my kind of town. Your city is my kind of people too. People who just smile at you, and each time I roam, your city is, well, it's calling me home. Your city is, it makes me grin like a clown. Well, it's my kind of town. Your city is my kind of town. York City is my kind of razzmatazz. And it has all that jazz. And each time I leave, York City is, well, it's grabbing my sleeve. York City is the central market. York City is the revolution. York City is one town that won't let you down. It's mine, totally mine, my kind of town. York City, York City, York City, York City, that's my town. City.
So written in 1964 by Sammy Cain and Jimmy Van Heusen for Robin and the Seven Hoods. Sinatra recorded My Kind of Town, almost immediately made it a regular part of his live shows, frequently customizing the lyrics like we just did here. And, I mean, come on, that's a Sinatra song. That's just truly a Sinatra song. So his lyrics contribute to the city that hosted him and his performance, as we've done here tonight. So our next selection was originally titled In Other Words. It was first recorded by Sinatra in '64 with the Count Basie Orchestra. Although it was written in '54, the song never gained traction until Peggy Lee recorded it in 1960. It was Lee who was convinced the composer Bart Howard to make the name change official. Sinatra's magic made it a classic. The timing of Sinatra's release at the height of popularity in the middle of the '60s of the space race, Fly Me to the Moon, was a natural winner.
Fly me to the moon and let me live among those stars. Let me see what spring is like on a Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, darling, kiss me. Fill my heart with song and let me sing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words, please be true. song and let me swing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words, please be true.
Sinatra considered the 1960s to be the very good years, and Irvin Drake's It Was a Very Good Year was a natural choice for Frank's repertoire. First arranged for Frank in 1965 by Gordon Jenkins, this recording from Sinatra's September of My Years album would win the Grammy Award for Best Male Vocal Performance in 1966. And Jenkins also received the Grammy for Best Instrumental Arrangement accompanying the vocalist, and the song would become Sinatra's first #1 single on the easy listening charts. Quincy Jones would subsequently pare down Jenkins' full orchestration for the Basie Band, and this version will be released on his '66 Sinatra at the Sands live album.
When I was 17, it was a very good year. It was a very good year for small town girls and soft summer nights. We'd hide from light on the village green. When I was 17, when I was 21, it was a very good year. It was a very good year for city girls who lived up the stairs with all that perfumed hair, and it came undone when I was 21. When I was 35, it was a very good year. It was a very good year for blue-blooded girls of independent means. We'd ride in limousines, their chauffeur would drive. When I was 35, but now the days grow short. I'm in the autumn of my years, and now I think of my life as vintage wine from fine old caves. the brim to the dray. It pours sweet and clear. It was a very good year. It was a very good year.
At the center of the Sinatra's phenomenal success during the 60s stands the Count Basie Orchestra. Together with the conductor and arranger Quincy Jones, Sinatra's partnership with Basie resulted in some of his most memorable moments and recordings. From Las Vegas to St. Louis, the Hollywood Palace to the Capitol Recording Studios, Frank relived his early days as a big band singer, backed by an extraordinary talent, Basie, Jones, and that orchestra. We pay tribute to Basie and his band with the title track from the '68 album, composed by Sammy Nesco, Basie, Straight Ahead. Live music, York County, guys. Live music in York County. Can't beat it. Now, perhaps no song better symbolizes Frank Sinatra's Vegas years better than Luck Be a Lady. Originally written by Frank Lesser in 1950 for the musical Guys and Dolls, and the show was slated to become a movie musical in 1955, Sinatra lobbied unsuccessfully to the title role of Sky Masterson, a guy named Marlon Brando. He's a good player. But Frank did land a role. He ran the role of Nate in Detroit and turned it into a strong performance. And 10 years later, Sinatra recorded Luck for the first time, and it quickly became a regular feature of his live performance, and part of the numerous shows with the Rat Pack.
They call you Lady Luck, but there is room for doubt. At times you have a very unladylike way of running out. You're on this date with me. The pickings have been lush, and yet before this evening is over, you might give me the brush. You might forget your manners. You might refuse to stay. And so the best that I can do is pray. Luck be a lady tonight. Luck be a lady tonight. Luck if you've ever been a lady to begin with. Luck be a lady tonight. Luck, let a gentleman see how nice of a dame you can be. Well, I know the way you treated other guys you've been with. Luck be a lady with me. A lady doesn't leave her escort. It isn't fair. It isn't nice. A lady doesn't wander all over the room and then blow another guy's dice. Let's keep this party polite. Never get out of my sight. Stick with me, baby, I'm the guy that you came in with. Luck be a lady with me. Luck, let a gentleman see how nice of a dame you can be. Well, I know the way you treated other guys you've been with. How about you being a lady with me? A lady doesn't leave her escort. It isn't fair, no, it isn't nice. A lady doesn't wander all over the room and then blow guys' dice. How about keeping this party polite? Never get out of my sight. Luck if you've ever been a lady to begin with. Luck be a lady. Luck be a lady.
Although Frank first recorded Wee Small Hours in 1955 as the title track for a Capitol Records concept album release, it would become a long-standing regular on his playlist for the remainder of his career. The album soared to number 2 on the charts and has accumulated numerous accolades, including number 3 spot in the Amazon.com rankings of the 10 best albums of the 1950s. Many Sinatra researchers have attributed this melancholy nature of the album to the collapse of Frank's relationship with his second wife, David Gardner. Frank was able to evoke that same depth of feeling late in his career with songs such as Angel Eyes and Wee Small Hours.
Small hours of the morning, when the whole wide world is fast asleep, you lie awake and you think about the girl and never even think of counting sheep. When you're lonely, learned its lesson, you'd be hers if only she would call in the wee small hours of the morning. That's the time you miss her most. Your lonely heart has learned its lesson. You'd be hers if only she would call in the wee small hours of the morning. That's the time you miss her most.
As the 1960s drew to a close, a series of headline-grabbing setbacks along with the loss of passion for the grueling performance schedule led Sinatra to consider making some changes. In June of '71, he announced his retirement, telling the journalist Thomas Thompson, "I've got things to do, and the first thing to do is not do anything at all." His retirement lasted 2 years, and in '73, Sinatra was back and returning this time somewhat of an ambassador to the Great American Songbook, touring the world and performing the songs that made him famous.
In the spring of 1971, at the age of 55, Sinatra announced his retirement, but he remained retired only until the fall of 1973. In this late phase of his career, Sinatra cut back on records, movies, and television in favor of live performances, particularly in Las Vegas, but also in concert halls, arenas, and stadiums around the world.
By the early 90s, the CD era had inaugurated a wave of box set reissues, and the 1990 Christmas season found Capitol and Reprise marking Sinatra's 75th birthday by competing with the 3-disc, the Capitol years, and the 4-disc, the Reprise collection. Both went gold, as did Reprise's 1-disc highlights version called Sinatra Reprise: The Very Good Years. In 1993, Frank re-signed to Capitol Records and recorded duets, on which he re-recorded his old favorites, joined by other popular singers ranging from Tony Bennett to Bono from U2. Neither actually performed in the studio with Frank. It became his biggest selling album with sales over 3 million copies.
Jim was supposed to be on there too. He couldn't make it.
I was busy teaching.
Sorry. You're welcome. So Sinatra finally returned and he retired from performing officially on his 80th year in 1995. And his popularity as a singer and as his productivity resulted in this overwhelming discography. Its major portions break down into sort of the Columbia years and Capitol years and reprise years, air checks and film and television soundtracks and other miscellaneous recordings swell it massively. And as a movie star and as a celebrity of sort of mixed reputation, Sinatra is so much more of a 20th century icon that it's easy to overlook his real musical talent, which is the actual source of his renown. And as an artist, he worked to interpret America's greatest songs and preserve them for later generations.
By the early 1980s, Sinatra's voice had coarsened, losing much of its power and flexibility, but audiences didn't care. In 1982, he signed a $16 million three-year deal with the Golden Nugget of Las Vegas. That year, he made a reported $1.3 million from the Showtime television rights to his Concert of the Americas in the Dominican Republic, $1.6 million for our Carnegie Hall concert series, and just a small $250,000 for just one evening in the Chicago Fest.
Just like us in the Unforgettable bit.
Right, yeah. Sinatra donated a large portion of those earnings to various charities.
In 1984, Sinatra worked with Quincy Jones for the first time in nearly 2 decades on the album LA Is My Lady, which was well received critically. In 1988, he reunited with Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr. for a Rat Pack reunion tour. Sinatra maintained an active touring schedule into the early 90s, performing over 200 concerts between 1990 and 1992 in 17 different countries.
Comedian Tom Dreesen, who toured with Sinatra as an opening act, recalls that late in his career, Sinatra would have hit or miss nights. But he recalls a very special moment when Frank was 78 years old. One night, Sinatra took the stage and strongly delivered the first 3 songs of the set. On his 4th song, Sinatra completely blanked on the lyrics. The orchestra in the pit kept playing, and Mr. Sinatra just bowed his head and began to whisper into the microphone, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so very, very sorry." And as the orchestra started to realize what was happening, each instrument slowly wound down until the stage was silent, except for the chairman just whispering his apology into the microphone. Dreesen says he realized this is it. He's going to walk off the stage, lay down the microphone, and hang it up for good. He thought he'd witnessed Frank Sinatra's final performance. The auditorium was in complete silence. And as Sinatra, with tears in his eyes, was about to lay down the microphone, a guy in the far back of the auditorium stood up and shouted, "That's all right, Frank. That's all right. We love you. It's all right because we love you." And he started to applaud. And the entire arena began to cheer, and they wouldn't stop. Sinatra started to walk off the stage. The crowd wouldn't stop cheering. It went on for several minutes until Frank went over to the band and told them to start the next number, Mac the Knife, which he then absolutely nailed. The crowd went wild, and he continued on with the show. As the band struck up the next tune, he pointed to the man in the audience and said, "I love you too, pal."
While Sinatra would go on to perform publicly for another 2 years, his final public concerts were held in Japan in December of 1994. The following year, Sinatra sang for the very last time on February 25th, 1995, before a live audience of 1,200 select guests at the Palm Desert Marriott Ballroom on the closing night of the Frank Sinatra Desert Classic Golf Tournament. For his final curtain, Frank chose one of his favorites, "The Best Is Yet to Come."
So 18 years ago, this very night, May 14th, 1998, at the age of 82, Frank Sinatra passed away of a heart attack in Los Angeles, Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. He was laid to rest near his home in Palm Springs, not far from his longtime friends, his fellow songwriter Jimmy Van Housen, and his restaurateur buddy, Jilly Rizzo. And the lyric, "The best is yet to come," is etched on his gravestone.